Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, the 49th chapter. And in Jeremiah 49, the Lord has Jeremiah prophesy concerning concerning judgment against the Ammonites, right, the Edomites, and the those of Damascus, or the Arameans. Now, concerning Edom, as we'll read, that judgment that was pronounced or prophesied by Jeremiah, right, is mainly prophetic, right? That's not something that necessarily came upon Edom during the time of Jeremiah, but the Lord still had him prophesied anyway, because that way it could be fulfilled. All right, and mainly in this time that we're in, and as we go through it, we'll read that part and give the sense of it. So this is Jeremiah 49:1 concerning the Ammonites, as we read in the 48th chapter. That was about the judgment coming against the Moabites. So now concerning the Ammonites, now if we look up here, land of Israel and heathens Bible map, just hopefully they can outline the territory of the neighboring. See, is it here? Okay, here we go. Nice. This will definitely do. So hopefully this this is a good image here. So you can see here, right, you have the kingdom of Judah, kingdom of Israel, kingdom of Ammon, which is east here, and then Moab, which is also on the east of Jordan, and then Edom, which is south, right, southeast of us, and so on, right. So Jeremiah 49, concerning Ammon, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, hath Israel no sons? Hath he no heir? Why then doth their king inherit Gad, and his people dwell in his cities? So what the Lord is asking here is, why are the Ammonites, why are you in the territory of Gad, which is, close to where Ammon was, right? If we look up, I'm going to pull up another map here, say map of Israel Bible. No, not that. Some images. Okay, here we go. So you can see Gad is right here. But being that at this time, remember, the northern kingdom had been taken out of their land. So, you could, the heathens took advantage of that to start taking up some of our territory. So the Lord is asking here, right, are there no more descendants in Israel, right? Does Israel have no more heirs? Wherefore you are now, taking up their territory as though they just cease to exist, and his people dwell in his cities. So why is it then do I see you Ammonites in the territory of Gad? Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will cause an alarm of war to be heard in Rabbah of the Ammonites, and it shall be a desolate heap, meaning I'm going to bring ruin and destruction upon you, Ammonites, and her daughters shall be burned with fire, right? Which is dealing, on a higher level with their cities, like the smaller towns and cities, which are also likened onto like daughters, but also the inhabitants of the people, or the inhabitants of the land. Then shall Israel be heir unto them that were his heirs, saith the Lord. See, so I'm going to bring judgment upon you, and then Israel is going to get back their land from those that took it. Right now, I'll read this from the verse 1 in the NLT. It says, this message was given concerning the Ammonites. This is what the Lord says. Are there no descendants of Israel to inherit the land of Gad? Why are you, who worship Molech, living in his towns? Verse 2. In the days to come, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will sound the battle cry against your city of Rabbah. It will become a desolate ruin of heaps, and the neighboring towns will be buried. Then Israel will take back the land you took from her. See? Then Israel will take back the land you took from her. So, that's the modern English for it. So hopefully it's a bit clearer. Verse 3, Howl, O Heshbon, for Ai is spoiled. Cry, ye daughters of Rabbah, gird you with sackcloth. So it's for those of you in the regions, all right, where the Ammonites were dwelling, it's saying here, howl, lament, mourn, right? Lament and run to and fro by the hedges, for their king shall go into captivity, dealing with the Ammonites, and his priests and his princes together. So your nobility, all the way also down onto your priests and your common folk, you're all gonna, endure this destruction and go into captivity. Wherefore glorious thou in the valleys, right? In the plains, thy flowing valley, O backsliding daughter, that trusted in her treasures, saying, who shall come on to me? So why are you glorying? To the point where you were of the mindset that basically who can bring evil to you, right? Who can come and make you afraid or cause judgment to come upon you. Verse 5, Behold, I will bring a fear upon thee, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, from all those that be about thee, and ye shall be driven out, every man right forth. So I'm going to use the neighboring nations to bring fear and terror upon you as they come against you and take you for a prey, and have you flee out of your land, and none shall gather up him that wandereth. So those that are fleeing you're not going to find a place of refuge, right, where they can say, oh, you come and dwell here, for reprieve or for safety. And afterward I will bring again the captivity of the children of Ammon, saith the Lord. Right, so this wouldn't be forever. There's gonna at some point in time the Lord would lift up that captivity. Verse 7, concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Right, so the Lord is saying, what happened to your great wisdom? Right, now let's look up here, see Temanites in the Bible. Yeah, so it says here, a Temanite is a person from Teman, a region associated with the ancient land of Edom, known for its wisdom. The most prominent Temanite in the Bible is Eliphaz the Temanite, one of Job's 3 friends, who offered him counsel and are mentioned in the book of Job. The term Temanite is also used for the inhabitants of Teman, some of whom were wise, and it is sometimes used as a synonym for Edom in prophetic literature. See, so they were known for that, which is why the Lord is, asking this, like a metaphorical, not metaphorical, almost in a rhetorical way, like what happened, to all the wisdom? What happened to all your wise men? Did the prudent of your men lose their ability to counsel? Is there no more wisdom? Is your wisdom vanished? And the Lord is saying that mockingly because that so-called great wisdom they were known for is not gonna deliver them from the destruction that he is having Jeremiah prophesy against them. In Isaiah 47, I believe it says that evil shall come against thee, and thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and neither shall you be able to put it off. See? Verse 9, it says, if grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? So when you deal with, like, even in the law, right, when you have those that come into the field to gather the grapes, they leave a cluster or two, right, or a few. They don't take every single grape off of the trees. So even if, like, concerning grape gatherers, even they leave something behind, right? If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. So even when you're robbed, right, there's still something left, right? The thieves come in there, they take what it is they want, and then they leave. If your house got broken into, it's not like you would come there, and then the house itself wouldn't be there. Like there's just nothing there. Absolutely no. If it's jewelry or valuables that they want, that will be missing from your house. But like, I don't know, your like your plates, or your cabinets will still be there, right? So it's saying here, grape gatherers, even they leave something behind. Thieves, when they break in, even they leave something behind. But concerning Esau, the Lord is saying here, I have made him bare, completely stripped. Like, I mean, I'm going to strip you of everything. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. Okay, and ultimately, the Lord is doing that now, right? To the point where that is another way of saying the Lord would expose them. Not only would the Lord strip them of everything they have, but also expose them. Okay, the scriptures say that they heapeth onto himself, he heapeth onto himself all nations. But now he is being seen clearly. The light is being shown upon him, to reveal who he is as the son of perdition. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. So both Esau and his descendants and those of his house, right, as it says, would be spoiled. And when you're spoiled, right, you, like, one example is being made a captive, right? You are considered spoiled. But ultimately, as it says, and he is not, meaning they're going to be cut off. And it mentions the seed, the brethren, and the neighbors to basically, in other words, of saying his house, the whole house of Esau. Leave thy father's children. Now, verse 11 is context switching. Verse 11 is not talking about Esau, right, but rather Israel. Okay, because as it says here, keep in mind, when you jump up to the first verse, thus saith the Lord, right? This is what the Lord said. Who did the Lord say this to? Jeremiah. So you notice when the Lord is speaking about the other nations, he refers to them in, what is it? Third person, right? He, they, them. Okay. Like, for example, dealing with Ammon, right? It mentions, where is it? Their king shall go into captivity and so on. But it mentions he, they, them. Now, in verse 11, as it says, leave thy fatherless children. Thy is another way of saying like you or your. So here, if the one the Lord is speaking to is Jeremiah, then his quote unquote fatherless children will be there of his own people. Plus, the sentiment in verse 11 does not make sense to apply to heathens, considering this whole chapter and the one before it is dealing with judgment against those very heathens. So what the Lord is saying here is that I'm describing to you this merciless judgment I'm going to bring upon these nations. All right, the worst will come upon Esau, Edom, but concerning you, your people, right, as it mentions the fatherless children, which are orphans, you could say, or those without a father, I will preserve them alive. So I'm going to take care of them, and let thy widows trust in me. And the reason is because the fatherless and the widows were those that were the most vulnerable in society, because they would be lacking a provider. So they would be out there on their own, having to fend for themselves. And that signifies or symbolizes Israel. Okay, so the Lord is saying here, concerning you, your remnant, you could say, let them trust in me, right? Because I'll take care of them. But these heathens, they don't have that. They're cooked. Verse 12, for thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. So those, referring to Israel, who weren't made for the cup of the Lord's judgment, because the cup represents the indignation or the wrath or the judgment of the Lord. Israel wasn't created for that, though Israel did drink of it because of their disobedience. But the Lord is saying, if for my chosen people, they had to drink of this cup of this judgment as a punishment, and art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished, meaning Esau, Edom, and you who were created to be the wicked, the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction, you were fitted for destruction. Are you expecting to go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. You're not going to escape this judgment. Oh, you're going to drink. You're going to drink and be drunken. Verse 13, For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord Yahweh, that Basra shall become a desolation. Now, being that this is prophecy, Basra here is not referring to the actual geographical land of Basra in the east per se, but it is referring to America or Babylon today, right? Babylon in prophecy, which is synonymous with America. And and as we're reading, you'll find out why. But it says Basra because that was the dwelling, right, of Esau. It's one of the towns in Edom's territory. Okay, just as Babylon is now like the modern day, for example, Basra. Even though you may have other nations that dwell here, you have Israelites here, you have heathens here, but in prophecy, Babylon personifies, symbolizes Esau, Edom. Okay, so so when it says here, Basra shall become a desolation, it's really referring to Babylon. So the prophetic Basra is Babylon, and that's going to become a desolation. As it says, a reproach, a waste, and a curse. So this place, once the Lord brings judgment upon it, it will be a wasteland and a curse, as we've gone through in other chapters in Jeremiah. They shall take up a curse for this place. You know, like, may the Lord do unto you what he did to Babylon, or what he did to America for X, Y, and Z. And all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste, perpetual meaning continual. But that's not going to be the case for ancient Basra, because we're going to take that territory. The scriptures tell you that we shall possess them and their land, right? Roughly paraphrasing, that land is going to go into the control or dominion of Israel. So it doesn't make sense that that place would be perpetual waste. Verse 14, I have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, i.e. a message, and an ambassador is sent on to the heathen. Now, you know, an ambassador is like one that carries a message, okay? And on one hand, or on one level, you know, the Lord set us up as prophets, and we are not literally, well, I mean, technically, also you do have prophets in the various parts of the world, but the Lord didn't create us and say, like, necessarily commission us to go to the heathen, but the message that we are given is being carried all throughout the four corners and coming into the ears of the heathen as well. And that message is carrying a spirit. Okay, just as the spirit is gathering the Lord's elect and raising up his army, right, spiritually, that spirit is also causing a working in the earth on the minds of these kings and so on, to gather together to prepare for war, right? As it says here, saying, gather ye together and come against her being Edom, or here it's going to be Babylon, but ultimately Edom, and rise up in battle, or rise up to the battle. And what battle is this going to be? The battle of Armageddon, right? The final world war. Because that World War III is a form also of judgment that the Lord is mustering up. Verse 15, for lo, I will make thee small, meaning insignificant, among the heathen, and despised among men. And there, of all the nations, there is none despised collectively by the rest of the nations as much as Esau, Edom is. And you can look at their track record and find out why. Verse 16, thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart. Now, when you look up the word terribleness, it goes into like terror, right? Shuddering or horror. And what it means is, you know, they have been causing, Salakia, a little something in my eyes, fearfulness, right? So for so long, as the scriptures refer to them as the hammer of the earth, right? They have been causing, you know, that terror and fear through oppression and wickedness in the earth, okay, along with their pride for so long that they have become deceived into thinking that they're untouchable or they're invincible. O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks meaning like the holes in the rocks, like caves, and that holdest the height of the hill. And I pulled up here Petra, because at the time, right, their actual habitation was that they built into the rocks, okay, whether it was their temples or their homes or so on and so forth. So that's why it looks like this. Okay, here's an image right here where they actually, these are the clefts, right, that you're looking at on the side of the rocks that they actually built into it. All right, this is another image right here. And as it says, that holdest, or your territory, is at the height of the hill, right, at the high parts within those rocks or those hills. Though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle. So even if you no matter how high you make your dwelling or your habitation, because eagles fly high, right, and oftentimes have higher they put their nests on high places, right. So the Lord is saying here, regardless of that, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord. Okay, and today, modern day, the way they do that in a modern sense is, they build these tall, really tall buildings, these skyscrapers, your your empire state buildings, and their space stations and satellites and so on and so forth. Back then, they set up their dwellings in the high parts of the rocks. Today, it's a modern day, what is a concrete jungle again. But the Lord is saying, regardless of that, He is going to bring you down, okay, down to the ground in judgment. Also, Edom shall be a desolation. Every one that goeth by it shall be astonished. So, on the sense of Edom as a nation, the way they're going to be desolate is by being taken out of the position of power that they're in now and brought low into a position of servitude before ultimately being destroyed. And that's going to be a talk. But also the territory of Edom, right, starting with America, but also their system, the beast system, being destroyed at the judgment of the Lord and the return of Yahushua. America and, the land of Israel, they're going to end up somewhere in other places, but mainly America is going to be a desolation, like an actual waste, to the point where anybody that sees it is going to be astonished and hiss at all her plagues, as in like, damn, shit, that's some severe judgment right there. Verse 18, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof. And what was the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah? It was a wicked place where they did a lot of abominable, perverse things and warranted the judgment of the Lord, and He overthrew it by fire and brimstone. And it's the same thing now, right? You have Babylon and really this system, but primarily focused on Babylon because it is the heart, is going to be overthrown. It's a wicked place, right? Practicing perverse things, ungodly things, and it's going to be destroyed by fire. Saith the Lord Yahweh, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. And other precepts back up that point of this place not being inhabited anymore. Verse 19, behold, he shall come up like a lion. Now, verse 19, the way it's worded, especially in the KJV, can sound a bit confusing. All right, but we'll break it up like portion by portion so it makes sense. So as it says, behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan. Now, the he here is referring to the one that the Lord is going to use to bring judgment against Edom. They're going to come up. He likens them onto a lion coming from the swelling of Jordan, which is, we're talking about like the bushes, right, by by Jordan, by the Jordan River, because historically that region was known for having like lions and bears and stuff like that. So the Lord is like, I'm going to bring an enemy against you, against Edom, like a lion coming from the swelling of Jordan, against the habitation of the strong. The strong here being like the secure place of Esau, his dwelling place that he thinks he's secure in. The Lord is going to bring one against there, right? But I will suddenly make him run away from her. Now, when it says but, you can ignore the but. Really, the Lord is saying here that I'm going to cause them, Esau, Edom, to flee, right? The him here is Esau, to run away from her being their land. Okay. And what the Lord is, that symbolizes judgment or damage happening, because whenever there's war or when there's an invader or when there's danger, what do people do? They flee, even if it's their homeland. So the Lord is saying, I'm going to bring this calamity upon Esau, and who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her, right? Or in other words, it's a rhetorical question. The Lord is saying, I'm going to set up one over her, as in one to have dominion over them or inherit that land, whoever I want. Right? I'm going to set up whoever I want to, as it says, to be appointed over her, right? The same her that they would flee from. For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And here the Lord is boasting in the sense of like, who can match me? You know, who is like me, or who can withstand or challenge my authority? Who will appoint me the time? Appointing you the time is like another way of saying like who would summon me, right? When you appoint somebody a time, like saying like be here at this time, you're like almost like you're summoning them, right? As though they have to adhere to that. And so the Lord is rhetorically asking this because nobody can intervene. Nobody can do what the Lord is saying he's going to do, and nobody can stop him from doing what he's saying he's going to do. That's why he says, who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Shepherd here is symbolic for like a ruler. And here the Lord is saying, who is it that can stand before me, as in to withstand or resist my will? So that's why I mentioned the wording can be a bit tricky, but if you go through it portion by portion, you'll see how it starts to make sense. So in a whole, verse 19, the Lord is saying, I'm going to bring up an adversary against Esau. All right, that's gonna cause terror and destruction upon them to where they're gonna flee, and I'm gonna set up whoever I want over that. Okay, and nobody's gonna be able to get in my way. Now, when we get to the verse 22, right, we'll go into the who that is that the Lord is going to bring up like a line. Verse 20, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes, so his intentions against Esau, that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, right? This is prophetic. The least of the flock here is referring on to Amalek, right? Which is a tribe of Esau, one of their tribes. Okay, but when it says they're going to draw them out, meaning they're going to be a factor, as we're seeing them do now, which is going to cause the nations to be drawn over there like a vortex, basically. All right, leading to the turning that region of the Middle East into a powder keg. As it says, surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. So through their actions over there, they're going to cause that a war to form by drawing in those nations. Okay, and through that, the spark of World War III is going to be lit aflame, leading to that desolation or that destruction, both to that land and that region over there, and also to Babylon. Verse 21, the earth is moved at the noise of their fall. Because how are they going to fall? They're going to fall through destruction, through missiles, through chaos. And the scriptures tell you that the earth is going to reel to and fro like a drunkard. At the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea, right? Which is just to say that it was a loud, the destruction was loud, okay? As it said, and that symbolizes, the louder. For example, even if you have a car crash, right? If a car is moving not so fast and it hits another car, it doesn't sound that loud. But when you hear the skid, and then boom, that impact, oh shit, that's a major impact, right? So the louder the sound, right, the more intense or destructive the judgment or the chaos is. To put it in other words, verse 22, behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle, and spread his wings over Basra. Now it's going back to that same one the Lord will raise up against Esau. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom, right, their warriors, their military men, be as the heart of women. So they're going to be afraid. They're going to be in anguish like a woman in labor, right, a woman in her pangs. Now, when you look at this from the point of secular history, some sources will try to tell you that this was Nebuchadnezzar or the Babylonians that the Lord raised up to do this. But when you look at secular history, this is talking about judgment coming against Esau, Edom, that the Lord is going to use. He's going to raise up one to enact this, right? Now, from the time that Jeremiah, was on the scene, that he was given this prophecy, up until now, what do we know has happened in the region? You had the Babylonian Empire that came up into power, but it tells you that in the First Ezra, the 4th chapter, that when they destroyed the temple, the Edomites burnt the temple. So basically, the Edomites helped the Babylonian armies against us. Okay, and there's no actual account of the Babylonians coming and doing this level of damage to the actual territory of Esau, Edom. Okay, and who came after the Babylonian Empire? The Persians, right, or the Achaemenid Empire. When you look up in history as well, by that time they'll tell you that Esau or Edom, the Edomites as a whole, had basically moved out. All right, and they weren't like the kingdom of Edom or that territory wasn't as it was before. So there's no actual secular historical account that shows a major empire doing this to the Edomites. And we know that after the Persians came the Greeks, which at that point were Edomites, and then the Romans, and then, you go out through the Dark Ages and so on and so forth up until the Renaissance era, which once again was Esau, Edom. So he's really been in power since that point up until now. Meaning that this in verse 19 up until verse 22 hasn't been fulfilled. It wasn't fulfilled historically. There was no nation that actually did this. And we know that even in prophecy, no one nation is going to be able to do this against Esau, Edom. The one that's going to do this is Yahushua. Okay, he is the he that's going to come up as that lion, and he is the he that's going to come up and fly as the eagle and spread his wings over Basra. The scriptures tell you that he's going to enter into the house of the thief, right, and consume even unto the foundations thereof. So this is basically a prophecy of Yahushua making his return. All right, when in his chariots, that's why it likens him us to flying as the eagle and spreading his wings over Basra, which is going to be modern day America or Babylon. And that destruction he's going to bring is what's going to cause 2nd Ezra 13, as it says, and they were afraid and yet durst fight. It's going to cause them to be as women. It's going to cause them to be afraid. Verse 23. Now ends the prophecy concerning the judgment of Esau and moves on to that of Damascus. But something also to keep in mind here is this very similar verbiage concerning the judgment of Esau is used again concerning the judgment of Babylon when we go into Jeremiah 50 and 51. And that gives you the link to show you that Babylon, that judgment is being pronounced against in Jeremiah 50 and 51 is really referring to not ancient Babylon, but modern day Babylon, which is America and associated with Esau. This is Jeremiah 49 and 23, prophecy against Damascus. Concerning Damascus, Hamath is confounded, and Arpad, for they have heard evil tidings. They have got basically bad news. They are faint-hearted, they are afraid. There is sorrow on the sea, it cannot be quiet. Which is a poetic talk for as it says here, their hearts are troubled like a wild sea in a raging storm. Damascus is waxed feeble and turneth herself to flee. So at the sound of their judgment, I mean, this had to be an overwhelming, kind of judgment that caused them to lose strength and to be afraid and to try and escape. And fear hath seized on her, anguish and sorrows have taken her as a woman in travail. How is the city of praise not left, the city of my joy? And when you look at this in another translation, it's rather than the city of my joy, it's more like a city that used to be a city of joy, right? The famous city, a city of joy, will be forsaken. So whenever they say like, how is such and such, they're not actually asking because they want to know. It's just a way of putting emphasis on, damn, like what an unexpected outcome of events. Verse 26, therefore her young men shall fall in her streets, right? They're going to die. And all the men of war shall be cut off in that day. So they're going to be slain, saith the Lord of hosts. Remember, these are different judgments, right? The Lord pronounced one against Ammon. He pronounced it against Esau. He pronounced it against Damascus. Some of them had their judgments come upon them around that time when Nebuchadnezzar came into the land to conquer. Some the Lord spread out through history at different points in time, and some we know is pending, like Esau, Edom. Verse 27, and I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus, and it shall consume the palaces of Ben-Hadad. So we know this had to have been something that happened more historically, because eventually over time, the people in their original habitations moved, right, to where now you have, for example, the actual Hamites dwelling in different regions, right, versus where the region that was originally given to them. Same with Moabites, same with the Ammonites, same with the Edomites. Verse 28, concerning Kedar. Now this is dealing with Kedar, which I think was around the region of, let me just look up Kedar, of Midian, son of Ishmael, descendants of Kedar. Yeah, so somewhere around there, more south of Judah and Edom. So concerning Kedar and concerning the kingdoms of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, shall smite, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, arise ye, go up to Kedar, and spoil the men of the east. This is like a command the Lord has given to the armies here of Nebuchadnezzar, as it mentioned, to go and spoil them, right? Like a command to take them over. Their tents and their flocks shall they take away, because they were known for having, cattle and flocks and so on, and being like nomadic. They shall take to themselves their curtains and all their vessels and their camels, and they shall cry unto them, fear is on every side. So they're going to take all their goods and spoil them, and there's going to be a cry for fear, to where everywhere they turn there's calamity. Flee, get you far off, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Hazor, saith the Lord Yahweh. For Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath taken counsel against you, and hath conceived a purpose against you. Now, when you actually look up here, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, their territory did span all the way south there. So, it is very possible that this judgment against them happened during the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 31, arise, get you up onto the wealthy nation. This is the Lord commanding Nebuchadnezzar's armies to go and invade that of Kedar, or the Ishmaelites in that region. They're referred to as the wealthy nation, that dwelleth without care, saith the Lord Yahweh, which have neither gates nor bars, which dwell alone, right? Because that region was more, had a lot more like desert-like terrain. And their camels shall be a booty, a spoil, and the multitude of their cattle a spoil. So the Lord would give it up into the hands of the Babylonians. And I will scatter into all winds them that are in the utmost corners, so the remote areas, which they were, and I will bring their calamity from all sides thereof, saith the Lord. So it would be inescapable. And Hazor shall be a dwelling for dragons and a desolation forever, meaning for a period of time. There shall no man abide there, nor any son of man dwell in it, because they would for a period of time, they would take over their territory and more than likely carry a good portion of them captive, while a good portion of them fled. Now a prophecy against Elam. The word of the Lord Yahweh that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, meaning their might, the chief of their might. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, which that the four winds represents destruction, and will scatter them toward all those winds. And there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So the Lord is saying he would bring judgment upon them so bad, right, that they're going to be scattered, right? And that scattering, like I described, is usually by means of captivity or fleeing for safety. When people flee, if people of a nation are being attacked, they don't all flee in one direction, right? They flee to the place most convenient for them. That's why it usually describes it as being scattered to like all four winds or all nations. Verse 37, for I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies and before them that seek their life. and I will, meaning they're going to be weak before their enemies. And I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith the Lord Yahweh, and I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. So this is the intent the Lord had against them, to bring judgment upon them until they were consumed to the point of the Lord's satisfaction. And I will set my throne in Elam, and will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith the Lord. This doesn't mean the Lord is going to go live in the region of Elam, but meaning he would, like when you take a seat to do something, meaning your full attention is upon it, right? Like imagine passing by a certain area and you stop, right, to get something done there before going on. Verse 39, but it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. So once again, this destruction is not onto the point of them being done away with as a people, right? But the Lord would at some point, raise up or lift up that captivity from off them. And also a part of that setting of a throne also means having like power or dominion over them. And that brings us to the end of Jeremiah 49. As we can see here, a great deal of judgment being pronounced against, a variety of different heathen nations here. So with that, Lord willing, it was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rechak Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.